Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boom and Bust channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry. And today we are wrapping up the season. And I know some of you are like, we got another game. Season's over with, people. Season's been over with. So today we got the announcement that Justin Fields is going to be out for Sunday's game. The way they worded it was that Justin Fields kind of felt like some pain in his hip, and so they did this look and found out he has a hip strain. Oh no, he's out. Now that's some BS. I don't care what you say. First of all, the man has had hip pain for a while, so they would have already known if he had something and if it got worse. Second, it is only Wednesday. They play on Sunday. With any real injury or any injury that isn't severe, they're going to go throughout the rest of the week and see how you feel and how you progress and how you practice. To call him out already, we know what it is. We know what it is. We know what's on the line this Sunday. Like I said, after our loss, we are guaranteed a top 5 pick. If the Cardinals had or won, we would have been top 4, and if Denver had won, we would have been top 3. But both of them end up losing those games, so we'll see. But either way, it'll be top 5. And so the only real way that can change as far as being the number 2 seed is if we win a game or if Houston wins their game and we lose. If Houston wins their game and we lose, we move up to number 1. If we win our game, then it's going to depend on what the other teams do. We could drop to number 5 potentially because we have one of the strongest strengths of schedule out of all these teams. Which I don't know. Looking at or thinking about this season, I feel like that doesn't seem right, but maybe it is. We did have the Eagles and Bills. So either way, we have one of the strongest strengths of schedule, so we would lose that tiebreaker with anybody. So you lose, you guarantee number 2 at worst. And so what do? You say on Wednesday, Justin Fields out, Nathan Peterman's in. Nathan Peterman gonna lock up that number 2 pick for us. So I mean, I don't really feel the need to analyze the game against the Lions. I don't feel the need to really analyze unless something crazy happens this upcoming game. We kind of know what it is. Some of us have known since the off season, and that has come to fruition. So we sit here full season almost later after all the speculation, all the defending of the roster, a lot of people ripping the roster, some people saying we're going to tank, some people saying that's insane, some people saying Justin Fields a superstar, some people still saying he's an average quarterback. We got a lot of different things back and forth throughout this season, and now we sit here. So what are my thoughts? As I said before, I personally don't think that I would tank per se. Like if Justin Fields has some type of injury they can blame it on, then they're going to spin it and say, yeah, he's hurt. What's the point? But obviously they're just trying to tank it. To me, what we've been doing the last few weeks, I said as we went into Buffalo, I'm fine with it because at the end of the day, there's no surefire prospect that I've seen. And from what I've seen a little bit of, the quarterbacks are probably going to be super enticing. And obviously, if we're rolling with Justin Fields, we don't need that. So I don't feel like, we have to have number 2. Like number 5 is going to be the worst thing ever. Like, I don't feel that way. I do think that building a culture and an expectation of competing, having experience against the Eagles and the Bills, teams like that, that stuff matters. Even though Fields is out, and I'm sure some other people are going to be out because of injury, not because we're tanking, but I still expect us to go out and compete against the Vikings, who will be playing for something because they already dropped to the number 3 seed, and the number 1 seed is going to be up for grabs this week with the NFC. So depends on what happens there. So I'm sure the Vikings will be playing legit. And so I think we'll come out and compete, but without Justin Fields and especially with Nate Peterman, I don't see as much as I don't think the Vikings are the team that some people think they are, I still don't see a Nathan Peterman Bears beating them. But hey, we have been playing tough. So, but I think the value, like I said, of getting that experience and setting that expectation as a coach, that's more important than the draft position because we know what our record is. We know, again, that we're going to have a high pick. And so the difference between number 2, 5, and 7, that wasn't really worth it to me. So if we had pulled out the Bills game, which was closer in the first half, if we had pulled out the Eagles game, I wouldn't kill the team for it, especially the coaching staff, because you can't coach people to lose. You never get to a point of winning when you start off that way. You might lose games, but as long as you're competing in them, I think that's important. And I've gave the coaching staff some credit since week 1, in which I said the only thing that you could take away from that game in a monsoon is that the team is competitive and they're going to fight. And so to sit here and going into week 18 and listen and think about all the stuff people were saying week 1, it's hopefully it sounds ridiculous to you as it sounded to me in week 1. Like, that's nothing you could take away from that game. Like, do we really think we would beat the 49ers right now? I mean, they got Brock Purdy, but still, in general, that's not us. But we fought and we didn't lay down, and we fought against adversity in that, storm of a game, and it was a pretty fun win. And from there, I understood the mentality that this team had. Now, I've said before also, there's a lot of people that are underdogs, especially once you traded Roquan and Robert Quinn. You have a lot of underdogs. Obviously, we got 2 rookies in the secondary that got to prove themselves in the league. You got Jalen Johnson, who fell off from whatever they was calling him, Cuff Island or Clamps or whatever, stupid stuff. He wanted to show he feels he's one of the best corners in the league. I don't agree at all, but he feels that. Then you had a lot of new faces in here and a lot of people that people didn't want. And so I think it's possible it might have nothing to do with the coaching staff. I don't know, but to maintain it the way we did throughout the season and the way we prepared, we came in most games prepared. Um, Most games. Like I said, I think we were way worse on defense earlier on. It just seemed like we didn't know what we were doing. And to the kudos of the coaching staff, the defensive staff, we were much more solid even when we started to have put in a lot of our depth secondary. Eddie went down eventually, so we had to do that. Jalen's been in and out, or Jalen Johnson. We got 2 Jalen's. Jalen Johnson's been in and out of the lineup. And then, of course, the rookies had concussions. And so with all that mixing up, it was easy to see a situation where we start blowing coverages every week, but we really weren't. People had to earn those drives for the most part. There's times where people were just better than us, more talent. But for the most part, I think we played disciplined football, and that is very, very important. I don't think we were overly sloppy team in terms of our setup and our execution. I don't think we were overly undisciplined team in terms of penalties. And so even though you replace players, you're going to keep some, and the new ones are going to look to you to like, what's the standard here? They're going to look to what the team did last year, and they're going to understand this is what the staff wants, and this is how Eberflus runs it. And I was impressed with that. So it's a big kudos for them this year. I think the big discussion besides the draft and off season is Justin Fields. And I've been pretty clear through my talk and through the film of how I feel about Justin Fields. And I don't think I mentioned it, but someone said, not someone, a lot of people, some people took Urban Meyer's quote in which he said that CJ Stroud sees the field better than any of the Ohio State quarterbacks, like in his tenure, and he named like a number of them, but of course everybody like edited and said he sees it better than Fields, which of course Justin Fields is included in that group, but it wasn't just like a random shot at Justin Fields. And then people were laughing and trying to all that. Look, I haven't got to the film. I'll tell you, and I might have mentioned it last season, but when you talk about someone that popped off the film, and it's easier to do at quarterback, but still, when someone pops off the film that is not the person you're watching, that is an impressive thing. And I told my draft buddies, I said, CJ Stroud made my jaw drop. And so I haven't watched him this year. I haven't, because I care more about where you at coming out into the draft, which maybe I shouldn't. A lot of my draft friends, they go back and watch the old seasons. To me, I care more about what have you done for me lately. But either way, so I watch him and I expect a pretty good product. Like what he did against Georgia, I was not shocked by at all. And so, and he's missing one of his top receivers. So I was not shocked by that at all. I watched Justin Fields. I knew what I felt he was coming out, and a lot of other quarterbacks. So I don't see why CJ Stroud would be any different. And so if I'm sitting here today and talking about it, yes, CJ Stroud sees the field way better than all of them. If anything, Fields got worse and took a step back because of the situation he had to go into. A lot of people keep talking about how Ohio State quarterbacks never do well. And I don't know if that's entirely true, but the ones I think of didn't do well. They always say they don't do well because they're surrounded by so much talent. Now, a lot of quarterbacks come from talent. Trevor Lawrence came from being surrounded by a lot of talent. Justin Herbert came from being surrounded by a lot of talent. So I don't think that part is impossible. Well, one thing I always say with top tier teams, the quarterback has unrealistic protection. They have unrealistic protection. It is not likely that you're going to go into the NFL and get an offensive line at the caliber that you had in the top program. And that goes for the receivers and running backs and defense too, but the offensive line is the one that matters the most. Like, yes, look, the point is receivers can make plays for you. They can. Even if you don't get the ball to them perfectly, they can make plays for you, whether they're number 3 or number 1. But offensive line, you can't really hide that. You can't hide that. And so that is the biggest thing that changes for a quarterback when they come to this level. But either way, the point is, some quarterbacks develop bad habits. I've been talking about this all year since we drafted Justin Fields. Those are certain things that I watch, and depending on the person, they will not get better at it. If anything, they'll get worse. And so we've seen that with a number of quarterbacks, even good ones that are effective but still have not stepped up their game as a passer. And I worry about that because I don't know Justin Fields personally, so I don't know what's going to be his capacity to get better. But I always say 3 full seasons to evaluate any player. I don't care how the NFL works, where they want to call you a bust in your second year, or as a rookie, they'll call you a bust, Jared Goff. But still, I say 3 full seasons. So, well, we play 17 games now, but used to be 16 games. So, whatever, add those up. But so that third season, if you're fully healthy, you should be getting ready to turn that corner. And we know for a lot of players, some recently have been their second year, but for a lot of players, that third year is really critical at quarterback. And so we have to see what Justin Fields can do, because I care more about what you can do. Like, I've always been that way. Obviously, I evaluate. Like the stat stuff, I don't care a lot. Like, it tells you some things, but very little. Like, anyone can be productive in any given, season, especially in the right context. But what your skill set is always going to determine how consistent you can be given bad or good situations. If we could somehow transplant the Chiefs offense here, or if we could somehow transplant the Chargers offense here, yes, Justin Fields would look way better. Does that mean he's a better quarterback? No, it does not. And so there's a lot of things outside of the roster that I'm waiting to see what Justin Fields does to get better. And there's a lot to get better. Somebody asked me once, and I didn't respond. I end up forgetting, but I've also said these things a lot. So you could, I do this, the channel for a reason. So it's all documented. You could go back and see the things I talk about with Fields. But a lot of those quarterback like things that matter. And for people that have all these questions about how I evaluate players, watch the draft content. This is a draft channel at the end of the day. I started to talk about draft. I do it every year, or well, not every year because of COVID, but I've been doing it. I did it last year. I'll be doing it this year. Watch it. I break down exactly how I look at every position. But you have the physical traits, you have the mental traits, and then you have the technique. And so, mental, obviously, I can't speak intelligently about Justin Fields and what he knows. What I can tell you is how it's executed on the field, or at least how it seems. But physical wise, that's why I said, like, people were like, oh man, this is crazy. I didn't know. Like, no, he didn't have to run at Ohio State, but he's a 4.3 guy. Fast is fast. We knew he was going to be fast. Now, his contact balance and his elusiveness, that I didn't know about. Most of us wouldn't know about because we didn't see him run a lot, but we knew he was going to be fast. His arm, like some people, again, it happens every year. When people get drafted, for some reason, until they see them doing the NFL, they act like they just can't do it. Like Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Justin Fields throws a strike. Wow, he's got a strong arm. Duh, he had a strong arm in college. What y'all think, he just came in and didn't know how to throw? Like Jamarcus Russell, for whatever happened to him, guess what? He still had a strong arm when he was playing in the NFL, even though he was playing bad. Those physical traits don't change after you get drafted randomly unless you get in an accident or something. And so, yes, those physical traits, we know what he has. It's the technique and it's the mental game that we got to see what can be evolved. And yes, you're going to have receivers that can bail you out of situations, like I said. To be honest, I don't love how much Burrow and Josh Allen go to their number ones, because a lot of times they're not really open. They're forcing something. And I don't love that because I think, and it's not as bad with Burrow because obviously he's got more weapons and he knows how to read the field. But you don't want to get used to just putting the ball up and have someone bail you out. You want to be able to read the field and go to the right person. And that's what I love about Mahomes. Again, a lot of players, you don't know how they're going to react in that situation. Like if Justin Field or Justin Herbert, um, if he was to, I mean, he did lose Keenan Allen and Mike Williams during the season, but if he was to lose them like permanently, we don't know how he would react. Like, would he be able to get to a point where he could spread it around? We've seen him do it this season, I know, but I'm talking about permanently. And so when you lose Tyreek Hill, you lose some other familiar weapons, you bring in some new weapons, you still got Kelsey, but a lot of people's like, okay, what's this going to look like? And Mahomes has been humming. And he's humming because he knows to go to where the open person is. And that's a level Justin Fields has to get to. And that's what I would hope he gets to. I don't hope we get Shoot, I don't even know who the top receiver is that would even leave, but let's just say Justin Jefferson for some reason. I'm not hoping we get Justin Jefferson or the next Justin Jefferson and he just forces it to him all day. That's not what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping we get capable. First of all, I think we have two capable receivers. We have Mooney and Claypool. And then honestly, I think with the run game we have, the threat of Justin Fields, if you balance it up, you bring in a Jacoby Myers, so you got three number twos. I think we'll be okay. Obviously, if we get a number one, that's great, but I don't know how many of those are going to be available. But if you get a rookie receiver, they're going to be a number two automatically. So I think with three number two quality receivers and Justin understanding where to go with the ball, and then of course upgrading the line so he has time to go there with the ball, then I think we would be able to be as good as we need to be on offense. But the ability to read that field, and to understand the progression, to understand the plays, understand coverages, to understand how to maneuver in the pocket, when to take off, when to extend the play. All those things is things that Justin Fields is going to have to improve that the team can't really improve for him. And again, it all works in concert. Like I've been saying all year when they be like, it's the exact same thing we talked about with Trubisky. Is it the O-line's fault? Is it the play calling? Is it this? Everybody asks me a different question when it comes to film. And I'm like, it's everybody. It's everybody. It's a concerted or it's a combined effort by all parties. Sometimes Justin Fields creates pressure by moving in the pocket too early and moving the wrong way. A lot of scrambling quarterbacks do because they don't typically step up in the pocket and take off. What they typically do is try to run around to an edge. And then once the team figures out how to scheme it right, they're going to cut off everything you do. And so sometimes, like against Detroit, there's just quick pressure right away. Now, obviously, Jenkins was down, somebody else was down, and so we're getting to the worst of the worst on our O line. But that's what quick pressure looks like, where there's nothing Justin Fields could have did. Then there's times where receivers don't run the right route, or they don't run the route hard enough. And then there's time where Justin has time and he doesn't see somebody that's open. So it's everybody in the play calling. Sometimes it's crappy plays, but overall it's a team effort because it's a team game. So there's definitely roster things that are going to have to happen that'll help. But then also I think, or I know there's a lot that Justin Fields, if he is the type person that wants to get better and will put in the work, he can get better. And we'll have to see the extent of that, because just watching him in these last few weeks where they just, for some reason, he said, I'm not running no more, probably because he's hurt. But just to see him operating that way, to see him in college, and to see again some of this drop back traditional passing game, you see where it could be. And I think that's why some people, ride his jock so hard and try to defend him so hard. They're trying to defend what could be, and while people are criticizing what it actually is. And then that's when they start blaming everybody else, and nothing is Justin Fields' fault. And so obviously, as an evaluator, I'm in the middle. I understand what he looks like right now, and when it's a problem that he caused, I can call it out. But I also can understand what it could look like. And again, for as much as people hate the Lamar thing, he's a divisive person to bring up, but he's the perfect comp. Now, did Lamar look like Justin Fields in college? No, he looked the same way he does now. And so we never seen Lamar take that step, and so far he hasn't. Now, Justin has the ability to take that step, but the question is, will he? Because a lot of people have the ability to, but not everybody does. And then, of course, we got to make sure we keep an eye on what the roster is built. Now, as I said, in the offseason, we were tanking. The moves we did, who was available, who we chose to sign, how long we chose to sign them, the people we gave away, it was very clear, tanking. opening up cap space, opening up a bunch of roster spots that they could get rid of the next year, not putting out a competitive roster, tanking. So now we got all this money. We got a top pick, even though we gave away one of our really good picks that might as well be another first round pick, especially because the Dolphins, if you remember, forfeited a pick. So there's only 31 picks in the first round. And so we really essentially would have another first round pick, but we didn't. We got Claypool. But still, you got assets. And so now is the time to see what we're going to do with that. And now there's no excuse because some people's like next year is also going to be a rough year. It shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be, to be honest with you. You set yourself up well, and I'm not saying blow every single thing we got, but you set yourself up well to take a step, a huge step. And we know how the NFL is. We know how you can be the Jags that everybody is like jaw on the floor that the Colts lost to them to get in the playoffs last year. Now those Jags are in the playoffs, and the Colts is a joke. And so stuff changes quickly. There's no reason we shouldn't be competing for the 7th spot in the playoffs next year. No reason. So in terms of all season, obviously not going to get too in depth right now, but I'm letting y'all know this right now. And again, after the NCAA championship, and then there's a deadline usually around like halfway through January for juniors to declare for the draft. But after the championship, I'm going to start getting together my list with the help of my draft head friends, and I'm going to start getting into the film. But I'm telling you, I watched Jalen Carter live, and I watched him against Oregon prior to when I told y'all. I watched Will Anderson, and funny enough, he's starting to get a lot of questions. Those are not prime prospects. And again, I might watch more tape and see something that, I'm going like, whoa, but I've been doing this a long time. It don't take me more than one game to understand the caliber I'm dealing with. A lot changes through the process as you watch more and you learn more and they test. But for the most part, you know what a base level prospect is. I'm not going to watch a prospect and be like, yeah, that guy has no shot. And by draft time, I'm like, oh no, he's going to be a generational player. That doesn't happen. So baseline, yes, I think those two are first round picks, but this is the problem. And it's one of the problems. Every year the class is different. A number 2 pick in 2022 is not the same as the number 2 pick in 98. Is not the same as the number 5 pick in 98. Is not the same as the number 5 pick in 2017. The class matters. So are they the best of the group? I don't know yet because I haven't watched the rest. But even if they are, that doesn't mean that they're a elite prospect. They're like, I can tell you right now, Anderson is nothing like Chase Young. He's nothing like Nick Bosa. He's nothing like Myles Garrett. He's nothing like TJ Watt. He's not like any of those guys. And so is he the best edge prospect? We'll see, but he's not that level of prospect. And then the same goes for Jalen Carter. Now, Jalen Carter, I have a little bit harsher opinion because I just watched him again live, and it's the same thing I saw on tape. It's not to say he don't have the ability, but he might not have the motor or discipline, but he's been getting folded up pretty bad. And it's not to say you'll never get folded up as a good interior D lineman, but the way people were talking about him before I watched him, I'm expecting something different. And that was not at all what I got. And so, not to say we're not going to get them, not to say we shouldn't, but again, if I'm looking at this draft class, at least the way it's shaped right now before I watch things, it seems like there might not be somebody I need to stay at number 2 for. And there are a lot of fans that just want more stuff. Like they don't care. Unless it's a quarterback, they don't care. They want more stuff. They always want to trade back. And that's not always the right call. But in this case, I think it's the right call. We got to recoup something because of the Chase Claypool trade. And then on top of that, I just think there's going to be some similarly rated players out there. And so with the roster we got, we need things. It's not just starters. We need depth players. We need a nickel. We need special teamers. We need a lot of stuff. We need specialty guys. I know we got Velus Jones, and so we probably should use him, but still, just in general, we got to build this whole roster out. And so, yeah, I would be looking for some more picks. Some people want to trade for veteran players. And usually I would say that's silly, but not anymore. As I mentioned to y'all a couple times, that the way business is done now, acquisition has changed. You got to trade because they're extending people. Like everyone's like, oh man, Jack Conklin. Oh no, what was the other one? Jenkins from the Packers. Oh no, I told you they're gonna extend people, man. It's a lot easier to do those contracts. They're not gonna let you go to free agency, and so and then people are trying to force trades earlier in their contracts. So obviously they're not gonna make it to free agency. The only way you can get them is to trade like an AJ Brown, and so trading is the move if you got to get a veteran. It's just a question of who's going to be available and whatnot. And last year was crazy with receivers. Outside of Devontae, and now, let me not talk because I do not track free agency well or contracts well. So I don't know. But just in terms of who might be upset with their situation, I didn't see AJ Brown coming. Debo, everybody forgot Debo asked to get traded. Everyone thought he was gone, but they worked it out because they not really mad. It's just the money. Now, Devontae Adams is in a situation where he's gone. Now, we're not going after Derek Carr. So it might not matter because he might just want to play with him. But that would be the only receiver I could think of. But it might be some other players that end up quote unquote fake mad because they contract, and so we might be able to target them. But I can't speculate a whole lot on that right now. And so yes, having the number 2 pick, trading for somebody's player and some draft capital is also in play. These trade now look, y'all might be right, and I would be happy if you are. But all these mock drafts talking about taking both of Detroit's picks, are y'all crazy? Detroit has the Rams pick. The Rams have won 5 games, and they're about to play the Seahawks or trying to get in the playoffs. So probably they're going to be 5-game winners. That's only 2 games from us, so they'll be somewhere in the top 10. And then the Lions pick, if they make the playoffs and go on a run, obviously it'll be lower. But if they don't make playoffs, they'll probably be like right at 19 or 18. They are not. I am not giving up 2 picks in the top 20 range for the number 2 pick, especially when my first pick is in the top 5 or 7. That's not happening. That's not happening. And then, some of these other trades people talking about, the Colts give us DeForest Buckner and 2 first round pick. What? The Colts are going to have a top 10 pick. Like, what are y'all talking about? That's not happening. And that's not happening. And so, unless his contract, first of all, he played well this year. So even if he got a huge contract hit, he's a great player. So if they just going to give him up like that, I guess, but I just don't see it. I think a lot of these trades that I see people putting online are just so unrealistic. It's crazy. And yes, people are going to want quarterbacks. So maybe target that because Detroit has Goff, who has played amazing this year. And I highly doubt that they're going to replace him next season or give up the farm to get the next quarterback. And then you're talking about the Colts, who, yes, desperately need a quarterback. But again, they'll probably be in the top 7. So the value is not there for them to go because it's going to depend. But as far as we know, it's 4 quarterbacks that are viable. And so I don't see it. I don't see it. If they move up, it ain't gonna be with an extra first round pick in DeForest Buckner. I don't know about all that. But again, if y'all end up being right, cool. But it's just I hear the same trades from all the different fans I know, and I'm just like, these make no sense. But all right, so that's it for me. Again, yeah, so I'm not gonna do a recap from the game unless something crazy happens. I'm looking forward to the offseason in terms of the Bears, but in terms of the NFL, I'm looking forward to this playoff race. And obviously, we got the whole craziness with the Bengals and Bills, which I'll be talking about on my other episode. But that's how I'm feeling about the Bears. Hopefully, I didn't miss nothing. Go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Got questions? Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.